All right, let's do this. Welcome to the PewterCast. I am Brent Allen, your host. Today is February 6th, 2017, and this is episode number 28, the 2017 PewterCast Awards Show. And guys, I'll tell you what, in the words of Rafiki, it is time. It is time. You guys out there in Buccaneer Land have been voting, and now it's time to see who's going to take home the gold in the very first ever annual live PewterCast Awards Show. Now, guys, I couldn't do this on my own, so I'm going to waste no time in bringing on my co-host for this show. You guys have heard him before. He is a great friend of the show. In fact, he was the very last guest host we had from the 2016 season. From Real Bucs Talk, welcome back to the show, Ren Daxt. How's it going, my man?
It's going well. Thanks for having me back, Brent. First time doing a live show, so we'll see how it goes. Feel like I'm on, in New York on Saturday night. Excited to be here, and I'm very interested to see what the fans pick as far as like their favorites and least favorites. Yeah,
it was something being able to watch. I am the only one in the world who actually got to watch that as it went up and down, and there were some winners that and losers that kind of went back and forth. Like it was neck and neck, and then some that just completely ran away with it. So, we'll get into that. But hey, Ren, you got your tux and your tails on, man. This is an award show. You ready to rock this?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey, listen, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who is listening live at mixler.com/thepewtercast. Got a couple guys over here in the chat room. So hello to everybody got over there. We'll be talking to you guys in the chat room. And, listen, guys, these shows with the PewterCast, you never know. They may go live. They may not. But even if you can't get to it live, it's no problem. You can just pull it up on the podcast. That's on iTunes, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Stitcher, any podcast platform out there. We're on Google Play Music, we're on YouTube, we're on iHeartRadio, actually, Rat Pack Sports Radio, so tons of way to get to the show. And I tell you, before we get into that, Ren, it's been a while since we've done this. It's been about a month since the last episode of the PewterCast, and so just catch us up, man. What's been going on with you for these last bunch of weeks?
Well, we've just been busy at Real Bucs Talk, realbucstalkblogspot.com, turning out the material. We're really big, obviously, in the draft and free agency. I've been putting out a piece about every week on the need positions, about who I think the Bucs should go for in free agency as far as tight end, who they should go after in the draft. Been doing the same thing. I have a running back piece coming out tomorrow. And, we're just, we're knee-deep in free agency in the draft. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be, like I said last time I was on, it's going to be really interesting to watch how Jason Light orchestrates this free agency and the draft, because now, he doesn't have a top 10 pick. He's got to work from the bottom half of the draft. So and they could go anywhere. I mean, you can go anywhere with the first pick. So it's going to be exciting to watch. We'll be covering it closely and, turning everything out for Bucs fans.
Yeah, we'll definitely, one of the benefits to being able to take this last bit of time off is we got to really nail down exactly what we're going to do here with the PewterCast here over the off season. And, one of the things we'll do is we'll be looking at the free agency and I definitely what we're going to do in the draft is going to be affected by what we do in free agency, which is a little bit why I don't do a whole lot of mock drafts, especially right now, just because one thing is going to impact the other. So I can't wait to get into talking about that as the off season continues to roll on. There's just so much that's going to be happening. I got to tell you, for me though, I never realized until this year just how busy of a month January is for me personally. Like after the season was over, I finally kind of got to spend some time connecting with my wife. Like we got to go to bed at the same time for a change. Which was nice. And for whatever reason, doing 2 or 3 shows a week here with the PewterCast, it's amazing how much extra time that takes up, and it can really only be done at night, after everybody goes to bed. So we also had the kids out of school for a little bit this past month. My wife and I took a big anniversary trip this past month, came home to Florida, which was great. And just on a personal level, I took over a weekly show at the local comedy club here, which is just kind of keeping me a little bit closer to home, which has been great. And then of course watching the playoffs. Trying to keep tabs on everybody through the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Last night, as we record this, the Super Bowl had happened. How about that game, Ren? I'm sure you watched it. Any thoughts coming out of what is absolutely the biggest comeback in the Super Bowl history, regardless of how you feel about it? Man, that was spectacular to watch.
Yeah, just like everybody else, it's already been banged to death about what happened. I was when Atlanta scored that touchdown on their second possession in the second half, made it 28-3. Game over,
Right.
You couldn't They couldn't stop Atlanta, and they couldn't score. So I don't know what to say. It was more of I don't really blame the only running the ball 5 times, because if you go back and look, Atlanta didn't have a lot of possessions in the second half. And one of them, they had 5, but one of them was with 30 seconds left.
Right.
One of them was where he was strip sacked. So now you're down to 3. So it just, it was a perfect storm. New England came back, and if you think about it, New England's defense only gave up 21 points because that other touchdown was a pick 6, so they did play well. And then, Tom Brady just became, did Tom Brady. They abandoned the run.
Uh-huh.
I don't think LeGarrette Blount saw the field in the second half. And, the Patriots do what the Patriots do, and they win, and congrats to them.
And they won that. I got to tell you, it hurt me a little bit last night. I was at a Super Bowl party at a friend's house. We had all the kids and everything, and it was right as halftime was kind of coming to a close that the kids just kind of hit that wall. And so the wife and I, we just kind of gathered up the kids, went ahead and ducked out, and I don't know why I didn't think about it before, but I went on my phone to my app and I said, I better record the rest of the Super Bowl. So I hit record on my DVR. I came home and put the kids to bed, and we left right as the third quarter was getting started, and came downstairs, and so I was for the whole second half when I started watching it again, I was on a delay of about 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah, I was on
that happened to me as well.
Yeah. Now I already set my DVR to record an extra 30 minutes past the scheduled end of the game, for TV,
good.
Which was good, except for when I was watching it, for those of you who know that the game went to an overtime in and of itself and actually lasted a bit longer than what should have been, my DVR cut off with 1:57 left in the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to wait. I had to wait until Game Pass got, and I waited up. I had to wait until Game Pass put it up on their website on their app, and then fast forward all the way to 1:57 left in the game, because when I think it was the Patriots were on the 20, and it was 28-20 at that particular time. So
you didn't even know if they tied it up?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Man.
I didn't know. So it was.
Did you? By the time you got to see it, by the time you got to watch it, had you looked at Twitter? Had you known that they won?
I knew. Because I get notifications and stuff that come to my phone, and
right.
Of course Schefter and Rappaport and several Bucs fans actually tweeting about it that I follow, and it comes straight to my phone, and NFL.com breaking news, and it just my phone blew up with it, and I went, all right, well, crap. So, but I had to see how it happened. I had to see exactly what happened. So, and here's my big thought coming out of the Super Bowl. As much as it pains me to say, as you can hate them all you want. I certainly have my own feelings about the whole Brady Belichick thing, but you've got to take your hat off to the dynasty that those guys have built over the last 17 years. It is incredible. And I got to tell you, watching the Falcons last night, it was a bit like watching a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Anybody else get that feeling? We were great for the first half, and God, who knows what happened in the second half? You look at the box score, and they really, I think they got a touchdown in the third quarter, pretty early on, but after that, they didn't do anything. Didn't do anything the whole rest of the second half. So yeah, congrats to Patriots. May that be the last one you ever win. And let's talk Bucs. What do you think, Ren? Why don't we get into this and go ahead and jump into the show? We are here tonight to hand out some awards. Now, we've got lots of categories, we've got lots of nominees, and lots of people out there wanting to know who won. Because you know what happened was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we set it out online, we tweeted out the link. You, the fans, were able to go out and vote on several different categories of who you thought was the best and in some cases the worst as it concerns the Bucs from this last season. And so why don't we go ahead and jump into that right now? Now, Ren, we've got 18 categories tonight that we're going to go through. Some of these are kind of what we'll call the Razzies. You know, if you guys are familiar with the Razzies, it's, you know, the ones that maybe weren't so hot. You know, they weren't shining so bright from this last year. So we might poke a little fun, might get into that. Then we've got another kind of section of categories that has to do with Bucs media and kind of the fringe media of Buccaneer world. And then there's certainly the vast majority of our awards are going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the various categories concerning them from this last year. So now with that, Ren, I told you just a little bit about this earlier today, but just so you guys out there listening know, for everyone who wins tonight, we actually, except for the Razzies, I'm not going to do this for them, but for everyone who wins tonight, we've actually got an award certificate, and we've got a letter that's going to explain what this is and explain that this is a fan-voted award. And we've got like a little winning the winning card in the envelope that I've got here. We're going to be sending these out to the players, so hopefully they all get it. I think I've got the address down that we can send this kind of stuff to, and it should get to the players. And I'll get addresses for the other people who win, so they can who aren't Buccaneers players, so they can do that. So so why don't we get into it, Ren? What do you say, man?
Yeah, I'm excited. When you told me about it earlier, I didn't think about that most of these awards are player awards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, getting these certificates to the players, that should be pretty cool. I'd like to see maybe next year, you know, when Casey's in the locker room doing a Casey's Corner, you might see, like, you know, someone's little certificate hanging up in their locker.
That'd be fun. That'd be so, or just say, hey, we got this little thing, for, you know, fans gave it to me, and it's from this, you know, little weird, wacky podcast thing. What the heck is that? And yeah, it'd be really cool to see. Well, Ren, I tell you, before we jump into this, you know, now we had, like I said, there was 18 different categories that we had, but I want to go ahead and give you an opportunity. Is there any maybe special award that if you could create one and just kind of come up with one, or maybe one that I didn't include here that you just said, hey, I would give this out, and here's who I'd give it out? Do you have anybody like that you're thinking of before we jump into the rest of these?
To be honest, I really didn't. You covered it really well, and I thought about this because you let me know, you know, hours before. And honestly, the only thing I could think of, and it's not really a category, I kind of made it up. It's like what NFL team has the hardest number of jersey numbers to read? It's the Bucs. So that's like really the only kind of goofy, offbeat one. You have everything covered as far as like best, worst, surprise, bench. Like it's all there. You know, I didn't want to do anything about concession food or like what's the best cheering section or what's the best place to sit in the stadium. So that's all I really have is I can't tell if that's a 8, a 9, a 6, or a 3 if I don't look on it like head on. And that's I just want to get that out there because that bothers me. It's always going to bother me. They're not going to change it. I understand their style, but yeah, you can't read their numbers on TV.
No, it's kind of hard, and you know, the other thing, now this has been the thing that bugged me about their jerseys this last year, is we had about 16 different people on this team with the last name of Smith. And I needed them to put initials on these things because, oh my gosh, I was having a hard time. Oh, wait, which Smith is that? Which one? Just walking. They're all kind of the same. And those numbers, as you say, are not the easiest in the world to read. So,
yeah, if it's not a straight on look, like you're knowing because they're body type.
Right.
You know, how big, like you can pick Mike Evans out from a crowd, but I can't really tell like Ryan Smith from Javian Elliott from, you know, Brent Grimes. Like those guys are all kind of like the same size and they play the same position. So anyway, that's a pet peeve. That's not really an award. So I'm going to let that lie.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump into this? We'll jump into category 1. We're going to start with kind of the worst of 2016. All right, these are going to be the Razzies. And the first one that we have coming up, category number 1, is the biggest disappointment player of the year. Now, up for this award, we had four people nominated. We had Austin Seferian-Jenkins, we had Doug Martin, we had Vincent Jackson, and J.R. Sweezy. Ren, what do you think about these nominees, and where would you have picked?
Biggest disappointment. It's a great list. I personally automatically took out J.R. Sweezy. Injury, it's not his fault. Yes, it was disappointing that he didn't get to play, but Kevin Pamphile, filled in great for him. Vincent Jackson, a little bit disappointing, but his play really wasn't that good. Maybe him and Jameis would have hooked up later on in the year, become more of a better connection, take the double teams off Mike. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, it's not surprising. That's like if you leave your dog inside the house all day and you come home and, he's done his business in your, on your carpet. Are you really disappointed? No, because you knew it was going to happen. Like, it wasn't really a surprise. So, Doug Martin, and I'm not even taking in his late year suspension into account. It's just from the year that he had in 15, signed the big contract in 16, and we're expecting, maybe not second leading rusher, but, at least 1,000 yards, maybe 1,200 yards, some big runs. He doesn't normally take it to the house. He gets caught from behind a lot. But I think he had like 2 runs over 20 yards this year. And he had, it was up in the teens, pushing 20s last year. So for my biggest disappointment, I'm going to go with Doug Martin.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, because in order to be disappointed, you had to have high expectations. And by the way, just so everybody who's listening know, when these nominees came in, these are not just me sitting, my underwear on the couch eating Cheetos saying, well, who would go into this category? I actually polled a very small handful of people and said, hey, send me back your nominees. And so these are going in here, and I did it really creatively. Actually, the person at the top is the nominee who got the most nominations. There's some good English, splitting up the words for you, but that's the guy who got the most, and they kind of went down. So, I understood. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, man, I had a lot of hope for him after what happened to him earlier in the off season. With getting kicked out of practice and then kind of going on a tirade, and really, like, I was really cheering for him to come back, and I think I was so disappointed in what happened with him. And I completely understand it. But as you say, Doug Martin was the guy that I think we all had the highest hopes for, the highest expectations of, and those certainly were let down. And you guys listen to me through this show, everything notwithstanding with the suspension and the rehab, and I hope he's doing well with that. But it was still a disappointment. So to me, it would be Doug Martin. And let's see who won the award. We'll open these guys up. And sure enough, biggest disappointment player of this year was Doug Martin. So there we go. I feel like I should have a sound effect.
Dun.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. You're my sound effect guy for each one of these.
Man. All right. Okay.
All right.
Let's
move on.
It up.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. We are now talking about the defensive worst player of the year. And nominated for this particular category was Chris Conte, Quan Alexander, Bradley McDougald, Vernon Hargraves, and Brent Grimes, all weirdly to me. What do you think about these nominees there, Ren?
Thanks for saying that. I mean, I know that you had sort of a problem with Brent, somewhere in the middle of the year because he kept slipping. I know he was like kind of on your list as people that were aggravating you. So when I read this, I'm like, I can't believe Brent put Brent Grimes on this list. I mean, because he was, you could make an argument for defensive MVP for Brent Grimes.
Well, sure you can.
So, I was like, so I'm glad you said like shockingly.
Ren, let me stop you there.
Go ahead.
He actually was a nominee for defensive MVP.
I know, which made it even more like just weird. It's like, It's like, you're either the worst or the best. Which one were you? But since you cleared it up by saying that people actually sent these nominations in, that makes a lot more sense to me. Chris Conte, he's just about to turn the corner. I call him the Black Widow because he's going to kill you, but he doesn't care like who it is. Like he could kill the Bucs or he could kill the Chiefs. He's get near him. Something's going to happen. Quan, I don't understand why he's even on there. That's got to be like a Quan hater. I agree. Sometimes his liability in the passing game doesn't get his depth. And sometimes he just guesses on his run gaps and misses. But you lead the league in solo tackles, and I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was a Pro Bowl alternate.
Yeah, he was.
Bradley McDougald, I know you love him. I'm like, I could take him or leave him, but I definitely don't think he's the worst player out there. And Vernon had to play the hardest position to transition from college, besides quarterback, from college to pro, is cornerback. So I have to go with Chris Conte, because everyone else either did really well at their position or they weren't a hindrance. So honestly, more by just matter of elimination, it's got to be Chris Conte for me.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I also picked Chris Conte. Chris Conte was, and that's not even a matter of elimination. When I look throughout the entire defensive list, and here's the thing, I want to give Chris Conte his due. He was in on a lot of plays. He was in on a lot of tackles. But there was also a lot of stuff that got by him. He was also playing reactive football, it seemed to me, a lot through the entire season. When you compare him to his counterpart, Bradley McDougald, who was going in and making plays. And you mentioned that I loved Bradley McDougald. I wouldn't say I love him, but I like him a lot. I really want to go have a beer with Bradley McDougald, because I would buy him one, even though he doesn't need me to do that. He makes plenty of money. All the rest of these guys, I guess if you're just looking at worst player of the year, you could look at Vernon and kind of say, listen, as a cornerback, he came in, even as a rookie, you got to take all that off the table. Just, everything chips down. Did he make the number of plays that he should have made? Did he let things get by him? And I could see why he got nominated. That certainly Brent Grimes was definitely on my shit list for a lot of this year, but definitely was not the worst player. Chris Conte. Let's get to it. Let's open up the envelope here. The winner, or loser, I suppose, of the defensive worst player of the year by one of the largest margins of the entire award show is Chris Conte. The Bucs fans agreed. Oh, Chris. Oh, yeah. We'll be talking, Ren. We'll be talking definitely about Chris, because I believe he's a free agent again this year. So we got to look at re-signing him or not.
Might be back,
and we'll have to talk about that. All right, we got two more of these. Offensive worst player of the year. We had nominated for this at the very top: Doug Martin, Charles Sims, Donovan Smith, DeMar Dotson, Gosder Cherilus, and Vincent Jackson. What are your thoughts on some of these nominees?
All fair. Like, I can see a case for all of these guys being nominated. Now, voting for them is a totally different story. Gosder Cherilus, let's face it, he's old, and the only reason he made this list is because the only game he got in was the Dallas game, and then that last, our last two drives, where, it came out that he did hurt his leg or his hamstring, but he was a swinging gate out there, and that, undrafted free agent, looked like Lawrence Taylor for 2 series. So I understand why he's on there, but I can't say he's the worst offensive player since he only really got in one game. Dot and Donovan, they play premier positions. I tweeted this out when I was watching the East-West Shrine game, and then again at the Senior Bowl. You think Donovan Smith's a bad left tackle? Go watch those 2 games. The left tackles, and these are the best that are out there. Not so much the Shrine. I mean, there's the smaller school guys, but it's, once again, a Swiss cheese. Like, even left or right tackle, those guys could not stop anybody. So before you jump on Donovan Smith, look who's coming out this year. There's nobody there. So, he's our guy, and I wouldn't have put him on this list. Charles Sims I can understand because he got injured. It was his big time to shine. Martin goes down, and it's like, okay, it's time for you, Charles. And then you figured out in 2 weeks that he doesn't like to run between the tackles without, taking a step or two, tap dancing in the backfield. Vincent Jackson, once again, it's kind of unfair. He didn't get to play enough. Maybe you could say it's disappointing because, he didn't get to play enough, or he had this big contract in this last year and he didn't go out as a big hurrah for the Bucs. But having said all of that, I didn't want to vote for Martin twice. So just by sheer amount of penalties, and they seem to always happen on a big play, and I don't necessarily agree with the title, but out of that group, I went with Demir Dotson.
Yeah, I'm just scanning over here in the chat room. A lot of people are talking about DeMar Dotson, not DeMar Dotson. Did you say DeMar Dotson?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. No, they're talking about Gosder Sherrills, actually, his counterpart. And I would agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
But he was only in for like one game.
Right.
He can't be the worst player of the year if you're only in for one game.
Right. Well, he came in a handful of times throughout the year. Certainly he played. It was one or I don't remember at this point. It was 1 or 2 games. He played the full game. But here's the thing that I would just say about Gosder. And I think I defended Gosder, after watching game film, which, I'm taking flack from some people for watching game film all of a sudden. I don't understand that. But, he was actually okay. He was not as bad as people thought. However, when you looked at him, I think you can just, age has finally caught up with Gosder Sherrills, I think is honestly what's happened with him. And, he was hurt. He played through hurt. And in this league, it just wasn't enough, and certainly the guy who came in after him was not ready to play this year, whatever his name was. I think it was Wester, for the 2 play. I think he was in for like 2 or 3 plays. Like that was it. And he got smoked every single one of them. So, give him a little bit more reps, as the first backup. And I think we'll be good. Doug Martin, certainly, I cannot give Doug Martin the award on this one, though I certainly understand why people would pick him after everything that happened. However, all of that said, opening the envelope here, the person taking home worst offensive player of the year is my man, Gosder Sherrills.
Fireworks.
All right. All right. One more of these bad ones, and I want to get into some good ones. This one is going to be now I got to tell you, I struggled when naming this particular category because this is the opposite of the MVP, right? This is and I was going, is this the most unvaluable player of the year? Is this I didn't know what to call it, and then all of a sudden I had a duh moment of just going, oh, well, the opposite of most is least. So this is the winner for the 2016 Least Valuable Player of the Year award for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nominees for this particular category are Chris Conte, J.R. Sweezy, Daryl Smith, Doug Martin, Cecil Shorts, and Roberto Aguayo, our round 2 draft pick that we traded up to go get. Oh my God, people lost their shit over that. Now I certainly have a very, very, very strong opinion when it comes to this one, I'm not even going to let you talk, Ren. I'm just going to say,
go for it.
When you talk about the least valuable player, when you pay millions and millions and millions of dollars to a player who never sees the field, that is by definition the least valuable player on your entire team. By definition, you got nothing out of this guy, unless the only way you do that is if you had somebody who's playing who made you go backwards. And I don't think even Chris Conte did not make us go backwards. So for me, J.R. Sweezy is my pick on this, Ren. How about you?
Yeah, you look at the list, and it has to be J.R. Sweezy. And like I said, you can make arguments for some of these people, like Daryl Smith. I liked him as a bridge player. Jason liked to say. He only plays like 33% of the plays because he's only in there running down base defenses. Conte is not the least. I mean, you can argue he won us the Chiefs game by that interception. Yeah. Shorts didn't have enough time. Right when him and Jameis started to get that chemistry, he blew out his knee, and I don't think he'll even ever play again. So, and he didn't even start the year on the team. Like, we picked him up after we had all those injuries. Doug Martin, you can't say he had a disappointing year. He did have a bad year, but I wouldn't say he was the least valuable, because imagine if we didn't, sorry about that. Imagine if we didn't have him from week 1. Right. Then you're going into the Atlanta game with like Sims and Barber and Hansbrough. Like, we probably would have brought somebody else in by that time, but yeah, we needed Doug Martin as much as possible, even though he wasn't the Doug Martin we wanted or saw to expect. And Aguayo, you can't be the least valuable player if you're the only one there is. You can be bad, but you can't be the least valuable. So, yeah, I'm right on there with you. You know, Sweezy never even put on shoulder pads, you know, never even took a snap in practice. And but, you know, the good news, you know, he gave the thumbs up, and Pewter Report broke it. You know, he's ready. He's football ready. So that'll be super interesting coming into training camp to see how they do that whole center situation.
Yeah, it'll be real interesting. And opening the envelope here, agreeing with everyone. And actually, I will tell you, the vote was a lot closer than you might think. It was a lot closer, but definitely taking home the golden bucko, I think we might start calling it, somebody put out there, is J.R. Sweezy.
Look good in that bucket hat. Doing well.
There you go.
Put on some sunscreen, JR. You don't want to burn.
There you go. All right. Well, listen, we are going to switch gears here a little bit. We're gonna go more positive. I like the more positive.
Who came in second? Was it Aguayo?
I can't tell. You know, you don't watch any awards show and they tell you who came in second. I'm not going to tell you guys that. No.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to tell you the percentages. The most you get is Ryan Seacrest or somebody up there going, and the closest vote, or Nick Cannon, I guess it is now, and the closest vote we've ever had on this show. I might give you that one.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
Okay, now this particular one is a category that I was more interested in because I was going to take it somewhere. Nobody is actually going to win this particular category because it's not a person. But this category, it was the very first question we had on the awards survey, and it was the storyline of the year, the one we talked about the most, you know, the one that had the most impact, or just the one people were most interested in. For storyline of the year, we had the Bucs fired Lovey and hired Dirk Cutter. We had the Bucs draft a kicker in the second round. Oh my God, everybody lose your shit. We had the Austin Safarian-Jenkins situation and that whole deal. We had Doug Martin versus Jacquizz, who's going to be better. And then we had Jameis's very heartfelt letter to the team that we got there in the middle of the season. So what do you think about these? What just out, you don't have to talk about each one individually, but which ones kind of jumped out at you as kind of the key storylines coming out of this season?
The top two, for sure. I think was the Cutter Lovey. That's what I picked. That's what I would have picked, and I did vote for. Is a headline of the year, storyline of the year. But obviously, the second one with drafting Aguayo in the second round. I mean, that story's not over with yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to start all back over as soon as training camp starts. Even at OTAs, it's going to, every time they bring in a kicker. Or, they sign somebody even to, a futures contract. That whole narrative is going to roll over again. But I think it's going to work itself out, and I don't think there's not really much of a story there. It's like he's either going to make the kicks and be on the team, or he's not. But as far as like firing Lovey and going with Dirk Cutter, I thought was the biggest one. Remember, there was even rumors about like Cutter threw a coup, like behind Lovey's back and got him fired, and Lovey was supposed to be there, and then, it just ended up being Lovey was just too stubborn. They're like, well, you got to change your defense and bring some people in, and he's like, no, and they're like, well, okay, that's just what happened. Everything else was just kind of things that happened for a week, like the later Jameis and those things like that. But yeah, so I went with the Lovey Cutter line.
Well, opening the envelope here, it seems that the vast majority of the respondents, the voters in this year's PewterCast Awards Show, agreed with you, Ren, that the Bucs firing Lovey and hiring Cutter was the storyline of the year, which is odd to me, just because that was it was like the very first storyline, like officially the first storyline of this entire season was the fact that they fired Lovey and hired Cutter. It certainly had the biggest impact, I think, outside of maybe the letter of Jameis. You could argue that is the at least it marks the point that turned the team around. There was some other things. I don't think it was just that turned the season around for us, but it certainly was a marking point for us, that letter from Jameis. But certainly drafting a kicker. You talk about that, and here's the thing, and I think this is going to play true. You cannot judge a draft pick until you get past the rookie contract, in my opinion. And that's going to go for Jameis Winston right now. Like, we still can't. It's hard to judge him until we get into that next contract before we know if that was a good, if it's going to work out. Because I mean, look, Josh Freeman was around for how many years before everything imploded with him, and we don't think that that's going to happen with Jameis, but certainly with Roberto. Is that going to have been a good pick? I don't think we're going to really know that for a couple of years still out, but I think he's definitely going to have a much better year this coming year than he did this past year, which, by the way, I just want to say with Roberto, we knew going into it was going to be a hard season, right? We all talked about that. Like, look at kickers who are drafted high. They all they struggle in their first season, and then something changes. They pull it out, and they turn into one of the best kickers, the franchise has ever had. All right, moving on. Yeah?
Well, I don't think we went into the season because we saw him kick in preseason, but I don't think we went in I thought when we had the pick, it was a lot of people were oh, it's a little high, but okay, he's going to be here for 10, 15 years. We're all set. Don't worry about it anymore.
Right.
So I'm not going to go as far as be as soon as he got drafted, we knew it was going to be a rough year. But everything else you said was yes, exactly.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Let me rephrase that. We knew, especially when everything started, really, especially in preseason, and we just kind of went back and people started losing their mind again over the whole thing, and people sat back and went, now wait a minute, let's look and see what other kickers have done. Oh, it seems like he's kind of doing the same thing that those guys did, and it I don't want to say it chilled people out, but it made more sense, and we just kind of watched that unfold. All right, moving on. This is one that I am. No, let's move on to this other one. This is going to be the best Buccaneers media personality.
This was a tough one for me.
Best media personality, and up for this award we had Greg Allman, Rick Stroud, Jenna Lane, Mark Cook, Scott Reynolds, Ira Kaufman, and the Joes from JoesBucsFan.com. Now, I will say this: the way I define this to the people who were nominating was these had to be people that get media credentials. That was the only. This wasn't going to be me. This wasn't going to be
me.
Yeah. It's those of us that are kind of out on the fringe. Those of us who put up a website. Those of us who have our own. Whatever that is. That's a whole different thing. These are legit media personality type people. So Greg Allman, Rick Stroud, Jenna Lane, Mark Cook, Scott Reynolds, Ira Kaufman, the Joes over at JoeBucsFan.com. Who wasn't in this list, and I think it's because we were thinking externally, but was Scott Smith and Casey Phillips, who are internal to the Buccaneers. But certainly, I think they would fit into this list.
But it would have made my decision a lot harder.
Yeah, but they were not on this list, so I think maybe they just both kind of get the honorable mention. But what do you think? Who was our best Bucs media personality?
Like I said, this was really hard for me because it kind of I read the question two ways, best Bucs media personality, which means who does the best job, who covers the best, who do you like listening to or reading the best. Then there's best personality. Well, who's the most fun or the most person you want to hang out with, or who's you kind of feel like these people the more you interact with them on Twitter and Facebook and things, and so who's your buddy, personality you like. But I ended up going with the first way of reading the question, and I had a tie. Listening to Rick Stroud talk on the radio back when he had his morning show and reading his pieces, I just like the way he thinks. He never freaks out. He never gives these crazy takes. He thinks about what he says, and he has a way to explain and plans them out, and it makes sense. Besides that, it's Greg Allman. I mean, listening to Greg Allman's podcast is like listening to Walter Cronkite. You get the news, what's
right.
going on, But let's face it. I mean, he's kind of a monotone guy. I mean, he's not. You're not going to go to a Buccaneers press party, and Greg Allman's not going to be the first guy on the dance floor ever. So I put those as tied as because I just I like Stroud when he speaks, but I like Allman for his knowledge and getting out every move he's on top of, and he always knows what it means, and he's always got this kid that went to Lakeland is now hey, the Jets signed this guy that might have went to your high school 5 years ago.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if there is an award on here for the guy who could pull the most random fact out of thin air, Greg Allman, would win it hands down every single year for the rest of history, I think, because he's like, this is only the third time in 24 years that the Bucs have won when the temperature was over 42 and the humidity was 31, and the seagulls were migrating east. And
when Toyota was the most popular car on the road.
Right. Last time it was Honda and they lost. I mean, it's just these weird random facts that he pulls out, and he plays the game. He did it today.
Oh, did he? He did it today.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Patriots play the Bucs at Ray J next year. Belichick's never won in the city of Tampa.
Ooh.
He's beaten us. He's never beaten us at home during the regular season. Beat us in preseason and beat us when we went to London. But he's never beaten us at a regular season game at Ray J.
Ooh. Well, let's go ahead. Let's look into this. I certainly, I don't know. I like all of these guys. I've been able to build a little bit of a relationship with some of these guys, so I'm not going to single anyone out. I might be a little biased, but the PewterCast listeners who went in and voted. Let's find out who they chose. Opening up the envelope. And the winner for Best Bucs Media Personality is the one and only Mr. Greg Allman.
Great pick. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, he interacts the most with people on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. If you have a question about the Bucs, he'll get back to you and he'll talk to you about it.
He does. He's very responsive, which I very much appreciate. Very, very much appreciate.
And I think that's why he won. I mean, if you're going for best personality, I would have picked Mark Cook hands down. If you want to go have a beer and put a lampshade on your head, Cook's your guy. But but as far as
listen. Let's face it. Mark Cook had two personalities in this past season. For anyone who's listening to shout out over at What the Buck, he had two personalities that he was playing this season. So, but Greg Allman certainly wins. And I said this just Greg Allman's Locked On Bucs podcast is what I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers official podcast should be. It's everything. Tampa Bay Buccaneers official podcast is just. They do a radio show and they just take the audio from the radio show and throw it out there. It really is a just no nonsense, nuts and bolts. Here's what happened in the Bucs world today, and I appreciate that out of him. As you say, I appreciate his responsiveness. And he's certainly, when you're just looking for the news about the Bucs and the media personality who's going to get out there and let you know what's going on. That's going to be it. All right, changing gears, let's move on to the next topic. Best Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. What about it? And nominated, I was very honored that the people who nominated put the PewterCast as first in their nominee, so woot. But also on there we had What the Buck, we had Bucs and Brews, we had Bucs Uncensored, the Ira Kaufman podcast, Locked On Bucs podcast with Greg Allman, the Cannon Fodder podcast, there's your Rick Stroud thing right there, and all the way down at the bottom, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers official podcast. I can't ask you what you think about these nominees because it's pretty much every Buccaneers podcast that's out there. But what are your thoughts on this particular category there, Ren?
The short list. Well, of course, I mean, the PewterCast. This is the third time you've had me on. I love talking Bucs. I mean, back when you didn't have all these people in your chat room. It was just like two of us in there. I've been there since the beginning. You've always been nice to me. I've called a few times, and our relationship has grown, and look where it is today.
Sure.
So my favorite podcast is there, but they all What the Buck. I love their content. I love their knowledge. I love the way they talk on there. And for my third one, I like a Tampa Bay official podcast. Now I'm not sure exactly what is that the one presented by Miller Lite with Casey and Scott.
It's that's the Buccaneers Insider Live presented by Miller Lite, and then there's also but also included in that is where they do the 5 nights a week where they are interviewing a Tampa Bay player or the coach, and then they also put on there, and then there's usually a little 3 or 4 minute clip with Coach Cutter at the end of each game that TJ Reeves does,
right.
and again, like I say, these are the things that they're putting out on the radio. They're just capturing the audio and throwing it on a podcast is really what's happening.
Agreed. Now, if it was just that Miller Lite segment, That'd be my third. I like them because they're in the building. They know what's going on. There's no rumors. There's no speculation. Like, they tell you. And then they have, they let you ask questions and they'll answer them. And the guy's been the writer on staff for 26 years for the Buccaneers. So, Scott Smith knows what he's talking about. So, number one, and I'll be shocked and I might throw a fit if they don't win. You might be familiar with it.
Oh, well, as much as I would love to open up this envelope and say that the winner is of the Golden Bucko, the PewterCast, I sadly cannot do that.
You're kidding. People went on your website and didn't vote for
you. Yeah, they went to my award show and didn't vote for me.
They gotta follow you on Twitter to see it.
What the hell? Right. So... but no,
okay,
honestly, winning this one to me is 100% deserved. And I called him, it's the godfather of Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, and it's going to go to Derek Fournier, Mark Cook, I guess, sort of at the What the Buck podcast. Congratulations to those guys. They'll be listening, hopefully at some point. And they'll get something, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans went in and voted and said, by a pretty, not the largest margin, but a pretty good margin, voted for them to be their favorite podcast, which I certainly can't blame them. Though I suppose this is the one time where I will tell you in second place was the PewterCast. So,
yeah, you can't argue with that. They've been doing 11 years. Studio, like I saw it. He was on with, I don't know if this counts as a podcast, but at Super Heavyweight, he's on Twitter. My name is his name. Anyway, he's got a YouTube. He does a YouTube podcast, I guess you could call it, a YouTube channel. And I actually got Derek was on there, and since they do it through the camera, because it's on YouTube, obviously, you kind of saw like his studio and his background. And I mean, obviously you're a sound guy, so I'm not going to put it up against yours. But besides like 620. His equipment, it was out of sight. He's got it down. He knows what he's doing. He's great for the community. You can't say anything bad about those guys. They do an excellent job.
Yeah, no, I've seen his studio on camera, film, whatever before, and it's pretty stellar. As a sound guy myself, mine is very simple. It's very small down. I try to reach a certain audio quality with what I have, but it's very, very small down. His studio is pretty incredible. Mine's fairly flexible though. I can get by with what I need to do. So, congratulations, to my friend Derek. Certainly helped me out a lot at the beginning of the year, getting going too. So
I don't mean to cut you off, but I will say this, as far as audio and everything that you hear, like download or listen live or whatever, as far as audio production value, yours wins hands down.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that. It is a value that I personally hold, and is part of why I had to spend the month of January reconnecting with my wife, because we work on that stuff. So, all right, let's move on. We've got one more category in this section before we get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers players specifically, and this is one that I know at least a couple of people in the chat room have been waiting on specifically, and this one is for the winner of the best guest on the PewterCast from this last year. And for this category, this one, honestly, this was real easy. This was just everyone who has been a guest this past year. We had Ben Schaefer of the Bucs and Brews podcast. We had Chris Stafford and Troy Carter together, also of the Bucs and Brews podcast. We had Bucs Princess Nikki. Shout out to Bucs Princess Nikki, who is in the chat room right now. We had Chris Fisher from the formerly Bucs Brief podcast. We had Scott Reynolds of PewterReport.com. We had James Yarko a couple of times this year from the PewterPlank.com. Ren, you were actually in on this one. Ren Daxt of Real Bucs Talk. We had Riley Allman, son of Greg Allman. We had Derek Fournier come on the show a couple of times for What the Buck. And then we had Evan from @Bucs Football. Be real with us, Ren. Did you vote for yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course I voted for myself. But let me explain before everyone blasts me in the chat room there. I've only been sort of active on Twitter as far as following the Bucs closely, deep, as in you're gonna rearrange your schedule at 9:00 so you can come on and listen to a show like this. I've only been that deep into it probably since right around the start of training camp. So I'm pretty new to Twitter. Like I had an account, but I didn't really look at it and follow it. I didn't understand how it worked. Mm-hmm. So if I won this and it got out there that I did, what I'm trying to do is build my Buccaneer family on Twitter. And that's the only reason I voted for myself. Because if I won, which I know I'm not going to, but feel free to spoil that for me. Then like more people would hear my name and they're like, well, he won. I guess he does kind of know what he's talking about, and be able to check me out, be able to check out Real Bucs Talk, blogspot.com, and follow us on Twitter. And that's the only reason. Besides that, it's back to what the buck for me. Derek Fournier, I listen to that guy talk football all the time. He's coached it. He knows it. He's been in it. Just like Stroud, never too up, too down, doesn't make these ridiculous, claims about this or that. He just, gives you the facts, and he can explain it eloquently so you can understand it. And after he's done explaining, it's hard to argue with what he says. So that's who I would have picked if I wasn't on the list.
Although there are some people who will still argue with Derek, regardless of what he says, because they're that way. Now, I will let you know, Ren. No, I'm sorry, you did not win this particular category. However,
so close.
However, you were not the only person who voted for you. You did receive more votes than just your one. So I won't tell you how many, but let that just be really close to your heart. It was not two. It may not have been much more than that, though. But anyway. This one. Now I'll tell you guys, this one was a close one. There were several that were right there, neck and neck. I think I see over in the chat room Riley is with us, so shout out to Riley, who is a part of this category as well. Riley, I am definitely going to be calling you, my friend. I've got some stuff I want to talk to you about this off season, getting you back on the show. But opening up the envelope, you got your drum roll ready for me there, Ren?
I hope I have my tiara ready. I was joking with Buck Princess on Twitter about how she's like, oh, I don't think I'll win, but it's nice to be nominated, blah blah blah. And I'm like, listen, you're gonna carry the tiara vote, so you got a chance.
Carrying the female vote. Well, opening up the envelope here. PewterCast fans went online. They voted, and for the best PewterCast guest in the 2016 season, the very first year of the PewterCast, they voted for their favorite guest to be the one, the only, Bucs Princess, Nikki.
Pew, 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 pew. Take that, glass ceiling. Pew, pew.
There you go. So congratulations to Nikki. I know she was just saying, hey, as soon as this category's over, I'm out of here bouncing. But Nikki, congratulations. If there's anything you want to say, you can type it into the chat room right now. We'll get it on there for you. But big congratulations. Riley, who's also in the chat room, thank you guys so much. She says LMAO and wow. So that's really cool. She said she didn't expect that. Nikki, absolutely. You were one of my favorite guests to have on the show. I can't say that. I really enjoyed everybody. And let me take this moment to every single one of you guys who was a guest on the show, and then also to those of you who listen live on Mixler. You called into the show for the what do we call that? The Instant Cast show. But especially to those of you who are guests who would take out a bunch of hours to be with us and sit and give us your thoughts and collect everything down. Thank you guys so much. You guys were a huge part of the success of the first year of the PewterCast. And I am so honored to kind of be able to join this community, to be welcomed in, and to have you guys really be a part of the show. You guys made the show for what it is. Bucs Princess certainly, it was not an unpopular person this past year. The numbers on the show, the downloads certainly bear that out. And I think I saw her. She probably was the one who kind of campaigned the most for this as well, just to be fair.
She's got a lot of Twitter followers too.
She does. She holds down that whole Buckaholics West Coast thing too. So, activated her. She's got a fan base of her own, Nikki. That's what I'm saying. You have your own fan base, which is very, very awesome. Nikki, I'll be in touch with you. Need to get your address because I've got some fun stuff to send you from this.
And she needs to take a pic and tweet that out as soon as she gets it.
It'll be pretty stellar. It'll be really sweller. She says, She's in such company to even be nominated. Wow. Yeah, you guys, the whole list here is absolutely, you guys are great. She is honored and flattered thanks to her Bucs family. Lots of love going around. I'm going to stop reading the chat room now. Lots of room. You guys are all amazing. Riley, man, I still see you there. I think, yeah, there you are.
Is that Riley?
Riley? Yeah, that's Riley Allman. Riley, you are phenomenal. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, Riley, you were phenomenal this year. And like I said, I've got something very specific I want to talk to you about that I think you're going to have a blast with. I want to bring you back on this show. So, what were you going to say?
I had Riley as my second place finisher. If you don't follow this young man on Twitter, Junior Almanac, I believe at Junior Almanac.
Yeah.
He's a draft guy. Does the work, breaks down the film. I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag, but he's only 13 years old, and I'm always impressed about how much work he does and how spot on it is, and the way he speaks on Twitter. It's like you're talking to someone who's like in their mid-20s. So I'm always been impressed with Riley. I love his Twitter feed. I love following it. And if you're looking for someone local, St. Pete, Tampa area, and even national, and ask him a question, he'll answer it for you, and he knows his stuff. Very impressive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Riley's already got a contract with PewterReport.com. They're trying to steal him away from his dad. So, but I mean, we had another young man on the show this last year, Evan from Bucs Football. He also did really, really well. He's also, actually, I had him back to back weeks, and I was like, well, I'm hanging out with teenagers a lot. I should get adults back in on the show. But I mean, both of these young men are just guys that really knew what they were talking about. But I mean, when I'm looking at the list right now of people that we had on this show, and Scott Reynolds, James Yarko, Derek Fournier, like the people, the quality people, the guys over at Bucs and Brews, quality of people that we had on the show throughout this year was really, really phenomenal. And I'm just so honored and flattered that people even said, yes, we'll come be on your show. So thanks to everybody who did that once again. Congratulations to Nikki for winning this category, which will be super, super duper fun. Congratulations to you guys. And I think it's time now, Ren. We're going to shift the gears one more time, and we're going to roll into let's grind some of these gears, man. Shifting those clutches. We are going to we're going to start talking about Buccaneer players, giving out the awards for the best Buccaneer players of the year. But let's go ahead and we're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll come right back, and we'll be on the other side of this break, and we'll get into the rest of these awards for the show tonight.
My heart is beating and I'm under attack. Don't need a cure cause I don't wanna go back. I'm giving in, there ain't no fighting this fire. I got this fever burning inside. I got this fever getting me high. Let's have a great night on the dance floor. I'll be the cowboy on the white horse, and if we don't drown when we're swimming ashore, I'll be the third in line to get this fever, fever burning inside. I got this fever, fever getting me high. Let's have a great night on the dance floor. I'll be the cowboy on the wild horse, and if we don't drown when we're swimming ashore, I'll be the first in line to get some more. Let's have a great night on the dance floor. I'll be the cowboy on the wild horse, and if we don't drown when we're swimming ashore, I'll be the first in line to get us some more.
And we're back with the PewterCast 2017 Awards Show. The first half of the show, we talked kind of all about, we talked about some of the Razzies, you know, people who maybe didn't shine quite as bright. We talked about some of the Bucs Media and Fringe personalities. And Ren, now is the time to turn the page, to change gears here. And we're going to start talking about Tampa Bay Buccaneer players throughout the rest of the show. We've got 9 more categories to get through as we round out the show here. And talking about switching gears, I think it's appropriate. Let's go with the clutch player of the year. And this one may not be as big a surprise, at least on the nominees. We had Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, Brent Grimes, Jacquizz Rodgers, and Keith Tandy. The Tandy Man is in there getting a nomination. What do you think about these nominees for clutch player of the year?
Well, the first two are obvious choices. And to be honest, I am shocked that Tandy, because like you said earlier, you ranked them as how many times someone nominated them. I'm surprised Tandy's last, to be perfectly honest, because all he did once he came in was clutch. He was Mr. Clutch.
Yeah.
So that's who I voted for. I mean, you can make. I don't really understand why Mike Evans is a clutch player. He was a very productive player, but. That catch against Atlanta was one best catch of the year, so obviously it was great. But besides that, he didn't really get to some balls that that you didn't think he would have got to. And if you're gonna make a clutch catch, somebody's got to throw it to you anyway. So that's where it brings Jameis in. Brent, you probably did it. He's probably on there because it was recent in his mind that he had the pick six in the Carolina game. He also saved the Carolina game in the Monday night game. Jacquizz because he stood tall when he got his chance, but I wouldn't call that's not clutch.
He stood tall at 5'3".
Yeah, he put on his stilettos and he went out there and did his thing. So to me, I thought that these nominees weren't supposed to be in here because it's not clutch play of the year, it's clutch player of the year.
Right.
You take the whole year, it's either got to be Jameis or Tandy. And I thought Jameis was going to win a bunch of awards, so I picked Keith Tandy.
Yeah, honestly, Jameis wasn't nominated as many times as I thought he might have been throughout this deal. But, I fully understand what you're saying there. I really do. I think the only thing with Mike Evans is that, listen, when we needed a first down, it was Mike Evans. Every single time. When we absolutely needed it, he was the one that we looked to, and he got in there. He did what he had to do. So let's go ahead. Let's open up the envelope here, and the winner for Clutch Player of the Year 2017 PewterCast Award goes to Mr. Mike Evans. So
first, second, third, fourth, I'm a winner.
Mike Evans is up for a few other awards, so we'll see his name pop up at least on the nomination deal again. All right, moving on. This was a fun category to me. This next category. This is the off the bench category, off the bench player of the year. Now, I told the people that were nominating, these basically had to be backup players that at some point in the season had to come in and perform. We had 4 nominees come in for this. Jacquizz Rodgers took the top spot. Keith Tandy came in. Evan Smith, which I was really surprised. I like seeing the fat guys on the O-line get in there because IR won. And Peyton Barber, our rookie running back there. So what are your thoughts on these guys, and who did you pick?
I didn't take any of them.
You skipped this. You were one of the people who skipped this one.
No, I voted for it in the actual poll.
Oh,
but as right now, the person who I think is the bench player of the year isn't on here, and that's Javian Elliott.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was the slot. He played the slot well enough where, Vernon VH3 didn't have to come and play the slot. Because remember, we had it set up. We had Grimes, we had VH3, and we had Jude. But then Jude got busted and got suspended, and Javian stepped in and played well enough where it could keep Vernon out on the edge. And I think that was the best bench player of the year. Yeah, Tandy, but he's been there 5 years. Jaquiz, yeah. I mean, I get it all, but I think for as wow, that guy really stepped up and came from nowhere type of deal, that's who I personally would have voted for.
Javian, yeah. Honestly, I didn't even think about Javian Elliott, and I can see why you would pull him into that whole deal. To me, I think out of everybody, I would personally have to give it to Jaquiz Rogers. He was a guy who, Keith Tandy came in, did what he did towards the end of the year, but Jaquiz Rogers, kind of came in towards the beginning, middle-ish of the year and had a big time, and then we basically sat him again. And then when we finally brought him back out towards the end of the year, he did it again. He stepped it up again. So to me, that is, I think, why Jaquiz Rogers would particularly win. But Keith Tandy, I certainly understand. Evan Smith, like I said, I was just happy to see him get nominated. And Peyton Barber, for a guy who came in as a rookie, undrafted rookie, I believe he was, making the team. I love his story as a person. He was just a guy that we saw. So I loved seeing him getting a little bit of love here. Opening up the envelope, the winner for this Off the Bench Player of the Year award goes to a guy who closed out a few games for us, Mr. Keith Tandy, the Tandy Man.
I'm not going to sing.
The Tandy Man. All right. I feel like I should have music queued up for him there, but I don't. All right, moving on to the next category. This one was a fun one, I thought, to throw in there, and this was set up for our Coach of the Year. We had a couple new coaches come through and wanted to see what you PewterCast fans thought was going to be the Coach of the Year, or who that would be. So who would it be? Would it be our head coach, Dirk Cutter? Would it be our defensive coordinator, which how could you argue with that, Mike Smith? Was it our defensive line coach who came in and man, can we talk about the defensive line for a little bit? Jay Hayes under him, and Todd Monken coming in as our offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts on these, and who would you pick there, Ren?
Mine might be a surprise, but yeah, I'll start off talking about Jay Hayes. I mean, his line got decimated this year. I mean, we were pulling guys, out of the grocery store early in the season.
And to be clear, you're talking about decimated to injury, not decimated to other teams.
Correct. Yeah, good point. Thanks for clearing that up. Exactly. Yeah, everybody knows that our injury bug hit. Even McCoy missed a little time. Ayers was gone. Johnson was got out for the year. Spence didn't even basically got the first series of the year, and he was gone. So as far as holding that team together and doing a great job, Jay Hayes, I was going to vote for Mike Smith simply because he was able to recognize at one point of the season that the communication is breaking down, and he changed things up. Instead of just doing the same thing, he went to the players and said, listen, hey, what can I do to make you guys better? What do you need from me to make you guys better? But when you kind of heard the story go around, you kind of heard Dirk Cutter was involved in that decision as well, because he said a lot of we did this. He didn't say Mike Smith did this. We decided that we needed to make a change, and that might just be the way he speaks. But so since I think that was the biggest coaching move, but I can't pick between the two because I think personally they both still had a hand in it. I went with Todd Monken. One, he turned almost a future basket case in Mike Evans. Remember 2 years ago, how he complained all the time.
Right.
He couldn't catch. He would get in people's faces. I mean, he was out of control on the field a lot last year. You can maybe equate to some of it. He got married in the off season, but Monken came in day one. People are like, Mike had all those drops. What are you going to do? He's like, well, I got to coach him better. I teach him not to drop it. And then you started to hear the narrative where just you got to forget about it. Go on to the next one.
Right.
And his maturity level that changed up and like losing your number 2 receiver like 4 times during the season. It seemed like there was always somebody over there, and Jameis threw for 4,000 yards. So this might be like a cute niche pick, but I went with Todd Monken.
You know, that's a real interesting thing, because I didn't read the whole thing. It's Todd Monken, offensive coordinator / wide receivers coach. And, let's face it, our offense was not the best offense in the league this year, and it feels like it lost a little bit of a step to me from last year in terms of potency, though they certainly got done more often than not what needed to be done. But certainly what he did with Mike Evans there as a wide receivers coach, and when you think about the revolving door that happened at the number 2 receiver spot, the idea that Todd Monken could keep that at least serviceable, we certainly didn't have an elite player over there, but we were serviceable. And as you just mentioned, Jameis still threw for over 4,000 yards, which meant somebody had to be on the other end to catch those balls as well. So, I get it. Because I got to admit, when this came back as a nominee, I was kind of scratching my head going, really? But you make a lot of good points. For me, personally, I think I've got to go with Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter is a guy, and for anyone who's listened to this show, I believe we have mentioned what I've come to call the C word in every single episode since episode 1, which is the culture word. And for Dirk Cutter to come out and call out the culture of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and begin the work of what it is to turn that around, which is a very long process, by the way, to me just says, man, we got the right guy for the job, for somebody who's going to be able to go in there and do it. So I would do it. Let's turn to the cards and let's see who won, opening the envelope here for Coach of the Year for the 2017 PewterCast Awards. Well, this is actually probably no surprise to just about anybody who's thinking about it, but it's going to go to our defensive coordinator, Mr. Mike Smith. Welcome back, Mike Smith, for another year. There we go.
2 years.
2 years. 2 years we've got him locked down. So
He promised.
Hey, listen, it's 2 years is all we need to get another ring on his finger. That'd be awesome. We'll take that. We'll take that every time. So
best free agent signing that's not a free agent signing of the offseason.
There you go. Well, hey, since you picked that up, why don't we go ahead and skip over to the Free Agent of the Year award, because that actually turns out is an award. And coming in for this nominee, right at the top, Jacquizz Rodgers, Robert Ayers, Brent Grimes, Brian Anger, and Daryl Smith actually making in as a nominee this year. What are your thoughts on these guys, and who did you pick?
I don't know why Daryl Smith is there. So.
Oh, he was at the bottom.
I see him. I just don't know why I'm nominated.
And he got votes. He got votes. I'll tell you that. He got votes.
Well, it's good to know that his family listens to your podcast.
Well, there. All 3 of his kids.
You can make an argument for any of these guys. I mean, obviously Brian Anger. We're both big Brian Anger guys. I could make an argument that Brian Anger is a defensive MVP. I can make an argument he's a special teams MVP. I can make an argument that he's the team's MVP this year. But I went with Brent Grimes simply because of his leadership with Vernon. He made you forget how bad our pass defense was last year. And just him, let's face it, Vernon didn't have a great year. I mean, he led the league in like loud catches and yards and this and that, and because no one threw to Brent's side, and he locked it down, and he saved games for us. So as far as like bridging and making the back of the defense competitive, where they could keep teams from not scoring every drive, and so the offense didn't have to try to throw the ball all the time, taking everything of all that into consideration, I picked Brent Grimes.
Yeah, I certainly can understand that. Brent Grimes was a guy who I think twice throughout the year got on my shit list throughout the year, and twice he got off the shit list. He's one of these guys that, looking back on the season, I respect him more and more and more for what I saw him do and the contributions he really made to this team. And as you really just pointed out, Brent really when you think about the defense in the secondary this year as compared to last year, man, you talk about a night and day difference. So I can certainly
the safeties are the same.
Yeah,
the safeties are the same. It was the same. The guys are the same. The other one's a rookie. So, I mean, yeah, he's my guy.
Yeah, I get it. I really, really get it. I certainly see Jacquizz Rodgers in there. For me, it's hard to vote against Brian Enger in this one, though. It really is. And Robert Ayers. I'm a big Robert Ayers fan for what he brought to this team, the attitude, again, part of the culture shift that he brought to this team. Listening to Robert Ayers, I'm on record as saying that my favorite Buccaneers to listen to on the radio show this year was the Allie and Donovan show. It was hilarious. It was great. Casey Phillips, she should do. No offense to DJ Reeves, but I loved Casey Phillips in that role, and I think she should do at least another one or two of those as well. But as far as really listening to content of getting the heartbeat of what's going on with the locker room and what's going on, Robert Ayers was to me hands down the best show to listen to as far as those things happened, and to get a glimpse of a guy who's been there and is really trying to help a team get there to a place where he's once been. Man, Robert Ayers and the contribution he made, even while he was injured, was pretty phenomenal. So for me, but it's hard to ignore Brian Enger, a guy who can drop the ball within the 10-yard line almost every single time he's kicking it, even if he's on his own 10-yard line. I can't even
count how many points he probably saved us by.
Well, I can tell you he at least got us like 12 points, because there was at least twice when he kicked the ball and then our defense went in and punched it in. Okay, at least once, maybe twice. One of our better players on our offense. So why don't we go to the cards here? We'll open up the envelope, and winning this year's Free Agent of the Year, as voted by the PewterCast listeners and the fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we've got Mr. Oh, this should make Miko happy, Brent Grimes.
I'm glad there are some listeners out there that understand and how to actually break down categories and agree with me on that one.
There you go.
But, having said that,
yeah,
I love Robert Ayers too. He's such a cool dude. Literally 2 days ago, I got a 6-hour Twitter fight about if Batman's a real superhero with him. Honestly, check out my timeline.
No, with Robert Ayers?
With Robert Ayers.
No.
With Robert Ayers.
Oh.
He put something out with this video, and it was hilarious, saying like, well, this is why Batman's not a superhero. And I went, oh man, like, I hope you freed up your day, because you're gonna get a lot of a lot of pushback on that. And then the next morning, I woke up and I had this tweet. He's like, Batman's a human. He has no powers. There, I did it. 20 seconds. Boom. And I was like, no, I didn't mean me. I meant like other people. And then I ended up being that guy that I warned him about. I'm like, no, Robert, he is. Like all day, like back and forth with it. So, I mean, really cool guy. And when it's the off season now, I see him a lot more on Twitter, and he likes to interact with fans too. I'm a big fan of his.
Wow. Well, look at that. Robert Ayers. I'll tell you something I do. I like to collect celebrity tweets. Anytime I can get a celebrity, even like a pseudo celebrity to tweet me, I collect them. It's been fun. I've got a bunch of people. It's very fun. But that's not what this show is about. Let's move on. Let's talk about another award. What do you say there, Ren? Let's do Returning Player of the Year. Now this one it was quite a list on the nominees, and I'm glad to see some people getting some love here. A couple of them surprised me a little bit. But on the list here, we had Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Gerald McCoy, Ali Marpet, Keith Tandy, Quan Alexander, Will Golston, Cam Brate, Adam Humphries. I've got two questions I want you to pick out and talk about. Who's your biggest surprise for being on this list? Who's the one that it made you happy to see on this list? And who's the one that you think is actually going to win? Or who did you vote for? Either one.
All right. Kind of lost my place here. What are we doing? Return Player of the Year. Okay, surprised who was on this list? Probably Humphries. Because basically what you're saying is like this guy was on the roster last year, and you're glad that he was back. I wouldn't have picked Humphries. I mean, I was glad he's on the team because he filled a slot position. There's nobody else, but I like the guy, I like the way he plays, but I think he can be replaced and for a better player. And who I was happy was on this was Quan, because you see a lot out there in social media how people like Quan a lot, but when you remember, he got suspended the last 4 games, and the reason was "quote unquote" an energy drink, which is fine. He doesn't have to tell us. Whatever, you want to say energy drink? Okay, that's great. Whatever you say. But you weren't really. So he'd only played 12 games. He's a rookie. He was a 4th-round pick. He's been there all year. He's still, like I said, like a liability in a couple places. And then he comes out week 1 and gets 19 tackles, 17 solo tackles.
Yeah.
And then continues that play throughout the entire year. So for someone young as a rookie who made a mistake, got caught, instead of maybe spiraling the wrong way, he channeled it, came back, and put in, a great effort. Led the league once again. He led the league in solo tackles. And that's who I actually voted for, was Quan Alexander, because of that narrative.
And the other thing about Quan Alexander that I think we have to give it up to him for is he was a guy who came back and basically Jameis Winston had rubbed off on him. And, he went to Mike Smith and he said, or he went to Jameis and said, how do I get like you? How do I lead my side of the ball like you lead your side of the ball? And he said, be here first. Go to coach. Let coach show you what to do. And so, Cutter is on record saying every time he pulls in the parking lot at 5:30, Jameis Winston is already there, and he's been there for an hour watching film. The next person in the parking lot after that has been Quan Alexander, who's going to Mike Smith's office, getting one-on-one coaching with Mike Smith. Now, you can imagine how busy the defensive coordinator is, but to have the captain or the quarterback of your side of the ball come in and say, Coach, show me, for him to be able to sit down and give that kind of time to Quan was really great and certainly beneficial, and we see how it made a difference in this past year. So I can certainly understand why people would vote for Quan as returning player of the year. To me, I don't know. Jameis Winston, Mike Evans were the two that I fully expected, and I thought it was right that they were the top 2 nominees, though. Those were just the 2 that I thought battled it out. But as far as the fans go, let's talk about the fans. The fans voted for returning player of the year for the PewterCast Awards is going to Mike Evans. Look at that. Mike Evans winning award number 2 here today, taking home a couple of these. So congrats to Mike Evans. And, well earned, Mike. It really well earned. The way, we talked about it a little bit earlier, the way Mike Evans came back this year, particularly after last year, he had a reputation among the referees last year.
Yes.
And then to come back this year and basically demolish that reputation and just be so consistent, be the guy, that clutch player, which, again, you can argue with the name of that, but, I would still defend that of every time we needed a first down and we really needed a first down to keep the play alive or to keep the drive going. Mike Evans was the guy turning up with the ball. So
but Joe Hawley had to have a clean snap, so that's a clutch player.
Well, hey, I think that's why I think Anthony DePaula should be Special Teams Player of the Year right there.
Fair point.
So, all right, moving on to Rookie of the Year. This should be a fun category. Looking at the guys on here, I thought the nominees were very interesting. Of course, the top 3 were our top 3 draft picks from this past year. Vernon Hargreaves, Noah Spence, and Roberto Aguayo. Ryan Smith, our number 4 draft pick, also snuck in there. But Peyton Barber, undrafted rookie, got in there as well. So of those guys, what do you think about Rookie of the Year?
I don't know how Ryan Smith got on there, honestly. I guess maybe for his punt coverage. This is pretty straightforward. After the first 3 guys, Bond didn't play at all. Benedict only played spot. Like you said, Wester only played spot. So there wasn't Gossard Chairless. It doesn't matter. It was a center. It's down to the top 2. Goschalk, thank you very much. Yeah, he got on a little bit. The biggest surprise rookie would be Peyton Barber, but for Rookie of the Year, you'd have to go with Noah Spence. I think they both played well, but all those stats that did pile up on Hargrave's side, and with Noah playing with a torn labrum for 3/4 of the year, and he had that that really good stretch right in the middle of our five game win streak, where it seemed like every week he was having like a strip sack. I went with Noah Spence.
Noah Spence, yeah. Noah Spence is one of those guys. He to me was the guy that I wanted to see us draft in the first round last year, and we went with Vernon Hargraves, and I couldn't blame them for going with Vernon. I really couldn't. He's just not the guy that I thought we should have gone. I didn't think that was our biggest need at that particular moment. But the fact that Noah Spence was available when he dropped into the second round, and the fact we were able to get him was just phenomenal. Roberto Aguayo, say what you will, he really turned something on. When you compare the second half of the year, his statistics then to the first half of the year, it really is a sharp upturn. When you talk about people who improved over the year, you can hate on Roberto all you want, but he has to be in that discussion. Vernon, I thought he had a good year. I mean, he came in as a starter out the gate, and he played as a starter the entire year. But I agree, Noah Spence is the guy that I chose personally. He's the guy that I thought should have been on there. And playing, there's something about when a guy plays injured, especially for an entire season, it just amps up the factor to me. I don't think it makes them better, but I just think it amps up the heart factor, like an intangible factor.
Your favorite factor. Like, you're like, that's the kind of guy I want on my
Exactly.
team. And don't forget, his shoulder popped out the last game of the year when they knew they were out of the playoffs.
Right.
He popped it back in and kept playing.
And then went back in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I actually forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me and all the listeners out there. You're absolutely right. So let's go to the envelope here. Winning Rookie of the Year is, agreeing with Ren and I, Noah Spence. Congratulations, young man. Noah Spence winning Rookie of the Year for the PewterCast 2017 award show here.
That is quite a climb from
there you go.
Ohio State to Eastern Kentucky, and now back on the mountaintop as Rookie of the Year from PewterCast.
Hey, listen.
Fan vote.
Listen. Shout out to the Colonels, Eastern Kentucky people. Oddly,
doesn't get any better.
Yeah, oddly, Eastern Kentucky University is not really in Eastern Kentucky. Just throwing that out there. It's more central. Okay. All right, moving on. Oh, now we're getting into our Players of the Year. We've got our last 4 awards to give out here. Special Teams Player of the Year. Leading the nomination here was Brian Anger, followed up by Russell Shepard, Josh Robinson, Roberto Aguayo, who made it in, and because I was one of the nominating people, I put in Anthony DiPaolo, because, we all know why. And with that, do we really need to discuss this one very much, Ren?
No. Let's just move on. Brian Anger, yay, congratulations.
Well, now I have to say, I will say,
okay, we do have to
the winner. Well, no, this isn't really a discussion. This is just a fact. The person who won this one won by the largest margin, hands down, of the entire award show.
This was it.
This was it. In fact, there was 105 votes separated. The top guy from the second guy, like over 105 votes, which on a percentage level was quite significant. Quite significant.
Are you telling me you got over 100 people in this poll and I only got 3 votes for best guess? Is that what you're telling me?
I am not revealing those ultimate numbers, but yes, we did get over 100, and I'm not saying that you got 3. I didn't. Maybe I did, but anyway. But winning this one, I don't even have to open the envelope, but I will just because it is what it is. And winning Special Teams Player of the Year, Jacob Shum, went over to the Packers and went to the playoffs. But we got our man Brian Anger. 100% agree. 100% agree. Russell Shepard, shout out to our captain Josh Robinson, who very well could have made the Pro Bowl, and Brian Anger absolutely wins this one. All right.
Yeah, that's about the biggest surprise is Titanic winning Best Picture.
Right. Yes, exactly. However, I will say each one of these guys, everyone got at least some votes. Let's put it that way.
Really?
Yeah, they did. No one. There's only one person on this entire list who just got 0 votes, and I won't reveal who that was in their category. Oh, no, 2 people, sorry. But everybody got voted, at least 4 once. All right. Coming into our top defensive player of the year, winning defensive player of the year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At the top of the list, this one surprised me from our nominees, but I think he just kind of did whatever, was Lavonte David, followed up by Quan Alexander, Brent Grimes, Gerald McCoy, Will Golston, Noah Spence, and Robert Ayers all the way at the bottom. Who did you have? What do you think about some of these guys for Defensive Player of the Year?
Obviously, Lavonte David, to all the fans, including myself, the untrained eye, had a lot better year than we all thought he did. Even the media would talk about like where Lavonte David's at, and then the Pro Bowl comes out, and he makes like first alternate, and everyone's like, what?
Right.
So, so that was a little shocking. Besides everything else, I don't think Golston should be on the list. He's too much one-dimensional player. Now, I want him back. Don't get me wrong. I saw what happened when he wasn't there. But this is another one.
Which, by the way, I think that might be why he got on this list. Was when it's one thing to judge a player when they're on the field. It's another thing to judge a player by what happens when they leave the field. And I think that might be why he got on this list. Just throwing that out.
Then he deserves to be on there then. But yeah, it's for who made the biggest improvement and who was all over the field. I know I talked about Brent and his improvement, but taking the biggest leap forward, as you talked about earlier, about being the third one there and going to Jameis and asking for advice and how do I be the quarterback, how do I be the leader? I went with, because all of his stats and everything, I went with Quan Alexander.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. It's between him, Brent, I thought had a great one. Gerald, Gerald's one of those guys. He perennially gets high votes with stuff like this, and he should. He's a really great player. I think that he might kind of he might get he's the old guy that we've always voted for a long time, so we're not going to vote for him anymore vibe. I think that might be something that's there for him. But Gerald McCoy, I will say this: Jameis went to Gerald McCoy at the beginning of the season and said, "I need you to step up and be more vocal as a leader," and I thought Gerald McCoy delivered on that fantastically this year. And I felt Gerald McCoy's presence more this year than I have in any other year. It could be just because I'm doing the podcast now, the PewterCast, and I'm more aware of that kind of stuff. But I just felt like I felt his presence, even though he didn't hit the double-digit sacks like I really hoped he would. He's still getting a lot of the double teams, which may not show up on the stat sheet a whole lot. But he's still there. But as you say, Quan Alexander, when you talk about a leadership position, and my God, you go and you get 17 solo tackles in the first game of the year, and then he follows that up with several games where he was in double-digit solo tackles, not to mention all the assisted tackles that he got, or whatever they call that in Stats World. It is pretty phenomenal. Brent Grimes, he's a guy who won. He's already won once in this particular deal. What did he win? What was that?
Most valuable?
No, free agent. Yeah, he was free agent of the year. Sorry, Brent, free agent of the year. And he won that one. I thought he definitely deserved that. But I certainly can understand Quan Alexander. Lavonte, like I said, was a little bit of a head scratcher, but as you say, and that actually makes sense why he would have gotten a top nomination. When you look at things as they are, turns out he had a much better year than what we thought he really might have had. So, all right, going to the cards here, going to the envelopes, opening it up, finding out who won the Defensive Player of the Year award, and we have our middle linebacker, Mr. Quan Alexander. Congratulations, Quan.
Up on the ramparts.
There you go. Quan, man.
That's a defensive position.
There you go. Well deserved. Well deserved. Well, that's Defensive Player of the Year. I guess I bet you can't guess which award we're going to be giving out next.
I'm going to go with Offensive Player of the Year.
Offensive Player of the Year. Let's get into it. We had a bit less on the deal. There's a couple of people who snuck in, which I don't really understand how they got in there. However, The nominees we had for this category was Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Jacquizz Rodgers, Cameron Brate getting a little bit of love, and Ali Marpet. Thoughts and vote there, Ren?
I can see why people got on there. I mean, you can't have a category that just has two people in it. I mean, let's face it. It does come down to Jameis and Mike. That's it. But I can see how just because Jacquizz did carry the offense, at least the running game, on his back twice. Like you said, He went out and came back. And at the end of the year, that Saints game, like we win that game, we're in. So I can see why he's in there. Cam Brate, he tied for all tight ends with touchdowns. So he deserves a nod. He's like that fifth guy that gets invited into the Heisman Trophy ceremony, and you really know he's going to win. But
right.
that's your prize. You get to be in the category.
You get the nomination, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's like all those actors who they didn't win the award, but they're Academy Award nominee.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, you're watching the trailer. Yes.
Which could say Academy Award loser.
3 times People's Choice Award.
Right.
Nominee.
Hey! Speaking of which, just a quick little shout out. I think this is very cool. Viola Davis was nominated for Best Actress of the Year with the Academy Awards. She, with that nomination, has become the first African American female to be nominated for an Academy Award 3 times. 3 times, or more. But she's the first one to make it. So shout out to Viola Davis this year, setting a record.
Yeah, nice call there. I saw that too. I remember seeing that. Yeah, that went out there. And if you have not seen Hidden Numbers, go see it.
Yeah.
Or I got the stick, so I'm just laying in bed and watching it.
Right.
And not like Amazon needs more money, but if you don't have a stick, look into it. It's a life changer.
There you go. I think her particular nomination was for Fences, though, with Denzel Washington.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't even think she was in Hidden Numbers.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. I let you. That particular nomination was for Fences.
And that is why I have 3 votes, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry.
You can trust everything that comes out of Ren's mouth.
Which I have seen Fences.
Why do I have you on this show? Why do I have you on this show? All right. Offensive Player of the Year. What do you think?
I think everyone else cancels. I went with Mike Evans.
Over Jameis Winston. All right, let's have this. I think this is a worthwhile conversation to have. Offensive Player of the Year. Mike Evans over Jameis Winston, or Jameis Winston over Mike Evans. Because the rest of the guys, shout out to all of you. You certainly, you all did well. You wouldn't be in this list if you didn't do well at some point in the season. But I think it can only be between these two guys. Merits of one over the other. What do you think?
Well, this is not going... I mean, I'll say this first, because the real reason why I voted for Mike Evans is because the next category is Most Valuable Player.
Fair enough. Spreading the love. That's what it is.
Now, if I have to make an argument for it, it's his first Pro Bowl. He's earned it. His turnaround, he had no help. He was double bracketed, clouded all the time. He made some great catches. He took a lot of hard hits, and, he never flinched. You can go on and on. He turned into the player now we know he's going to be this year. Then after last year, you had his rookie year, then had last year, and you're kind of like, oh, man, they're going to be good, I think. But he put it all together this year, his maturity. He just gets open. He's not fast. I mean, he's compared to NFL players, he is not fast, and he's open. It's not like he's streaking down the field or doing a crossing or a slant. He just does like digs and stuff. But when he turns, he's got 2 yards on guys. So whatever he's doing it very well. And congratulations for making the Pro Bowl and winning the best catch, which really was the best catch of the year. And that's what I would argue for Mike Evans.
I can't disagree with you. And it really. I get the idea, although it always baffles me. I don't know how somebody can win like Offensive Player of the Year or Defensive Player of the Year, and then somebody else, when both of those guys are nominated as the MVP, somebody else wins the MVP. It kind of blows my mind, but I get the idea of spreading it out a little bit around. And, when you I think when you really think about what those ideas mean, the idea of an offensive player of the year or a defensive player of the year versus an MVP, like the criteria for those two are actually very, very different. And I think in coming down to that, I would actually also agree that Mike Evans really became our offensive player of the year. He was a guy. Jameis Winston made some phenomenal plays happen. To watch Jameis go out there, eat his scrambled eggs every morning, and get away from how many sacks did he scramble away from this year and extend a play and keep it going?
17.4.
There you go. Because he can scramble away 0.4.
That's when somebody gets a finger on him.
Right. So he, it's. Jameis Winston's a hell of a player, but when you, I think you look at the playmaking ability of somebody like Mike Evans and what he was able to do, and again, you say he won a Play of the Year award, like that's huge. So I can't fault him for that. So PewterCast fans voted. They went online and they chose, opening an envelope, the offensive player of the year is none other than Mr. Mike Evans, taking home his third Golden Bucko award tonight. So Mike Evans.
Da-da-da.
There we go. Congratulations, Mike. Very, very well earned. Definitely thank you for your contributions and also winning by a large margin, I might add. All right, Ren, this is it, man. We've come down to the final award. You could say this is the big one of the night. This is our 2016 Most Valuable Player. Let me go ahead and just say quickly to everyone who is still with us in the chat room, thanks for sticking it out. This has been a rather long show, so you guys rock. Thanks for sticking it out. And for those of you guys listening on podcast or on radio or something later on, welcome to the show as we round it out here. So, Most Valuable Player, the nominees for this category were Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Gerald McCoy, Robert Ayers, Jacquizz Rodgers, Levante David, Quan Alexander, and Brent Grimes. I bet I know what you're going to say, Ren, but why don't you just say it anyway?
Roberto Aguayo.
False.
You're alive. Yeah, it's Jameis. It has to be. He's the heart of the team, offensively, defensively, heart of the organization, you can even say. Always doing the right thing, always saying the right thing, always putting his team above himself, putting players above himself. He thinks being a leader is all about sacrifice. This is the first. I've been a Bucs fan since they've been around, since I've been alive. And this is the first time where I've had a quarterback. I've had my Drew Brees, or I got my Tom Brady, or I have my Peyton Manning, or even my Phillip Rivers. Like I got my guy where I can hitch my wagon to, and I have total faith that he can take me anywhere that he wants to. So yeah, Most Valuable Player. You could probably lock, unless he gets injured one year. Like, you can lock this category up for him until he, isn't a Buck anymore or he retires. I mean, that's just the way he is. That's just the way his personality is. And, I, for one, kudos. And I'm very happy about his arc of his career is going. Back-to-back 4,000 yards. I think he's smart. I think he makes the right play. The only one, because you have to have some kind of negative, is there's both years, his second year, there's been like a clump of like 4 or 5 games where he just like turns the ball over like crazy, and it's usually early in the season. But as soon as he sets his mind to it and starts repeating it in the press conferences, I got to not turn the ball over, not turn the ball over, not turn the ball over. As soon as he starts saying that to almost every question that people ask him, he does it. So right. Anything he puts his mind to, he can do. So, yeah, I mean, congratulations to everybody else for making the list, but, I'm sorry, you're bringing, a spud gun to, like, a shotgun fight.
Sure. And to bounce off that a little bit, because I was thinking about this watching the Super Bowl last night, Tom Brady, who is arguably the GOAT right now, greatest... It pains me to say it, but it's hard to deny it. When you win 5 Super Bowls and you orchestrate a comeback like they did, and that's the norm for them. But even watching, last night, I'm glad that Jameis is hard on himself whenever he turns the ball over. But even the best turn the ball over, and not that I'm saying that gives him a pass, but that can't be the thing that causes him to go down, and it's not. And that's what I love about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, to me, absolutely wins this hands down. Mike Evans was supremely valuable this year. Gerald McCoy, Robert Ayers, I probably think should have gotten more votes in this than he actually did. Even Quan as well. But Jameis Winston, for a guy who comes in who knows the state of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he got here 2 years ago, who said, we're going to turn this around. We've got to change. Here it comes again. We've got to change the culture. Jameis Winston's instilling culture from a guy who, when he came in for rookie minicamp, was the first guy here, and he wasn't in pads already on the field stretching or in the workout room being an example. No. He was at the door greeting people as they came in.
That's right. Yeah.
This is a guy that I watched when a player would make a boneheaded move and blow coverage or do something that really resulted in probably a touchdown for the team or something like that. And Jameis Winston would go up to that person and grab them on the sideline and have a talk with that person. When a guy comes in and can take when a guy like Gerald McCoy, who has been the face of the franchise and arguably the leader of the team, and he comes in and Gerald McCoy just goes, "Awesome, it's yours now. Take it and run." And he handles it with the grace and the poise, especially in the midst of all the off-field distractions that were coming in about him when he first came to this team. And to see how he grew from year 1 to year 2, and by the way, I'm just going to say the step function that Mike Evans took from year 2 to year 3 was phenomenal. And if that's any indication of the step function that Jameis could take from year 2 to year 3, man, this next year could be freaking amazing. And for that reason, to me, I like what you said. Just he can probably lock up this category for the next bunch of years. Although I think if you were to talk to him, he would tell you no, not to do that. But I think he really could. And I don't even know why I have to open this envelope. I should just leave it sealed because absolutely the winner of this category, the 2016 Most Valuable Player of the Year, winning from the 2017 PewterCast Awards Show, is Jameis Winston. Congratulations, QB Jameis Winston. Congratulations. Well, I can't argue with that anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right, Ren. Well, what about it, man? That's going to do it. That is the final award that we had to give out this year with the PewterCast Awards Show.
I liked it. I was I feel like there wasn't too many upsets from what I was thinking.
You nailed it just about every single time, almost.
Yeah, almost. So I think it was fun. I think that if you do decide to go on with this every year, I think it'll get bigger and bigger as far as fan interaction and all that. I thank you for letting me be a part of it. Letting me bounce some of my ideas and some of my thoughts off you and getting it done. But yeah, what a great time, right?
Yeah, man, this was fun. This was a fun episode to do. It just kind of getting to come back. And to me, this is really, I guess, the episode that puts the capstone on this season. I know for a lot of us, we've already kind of moved on. But I think as far as a podcast goes, this just caps off the 2016 season for us. And certainly now everything else we turn and we start looking towards the 2017 season coming up. Just so you guys know, I know some of you guys are kind of thinking, hey, what's going on with the PewterCast? I know that I kind of teased that a little bit about knowing where we're going. And so, guys, here's what we're going to do. You guys know if you've been listening to the show for any amount of time that I don't like mock drafts. You're not going to hear me do a mock draft. We will talk about potential players that we should keep an eye on in the draft. But for me personally, and because it's my show, we're just not going to do one here. But because there's so many things that affect the draft, I think there's things we have to talk about before we get to talking about draft players. And the first thing coming up, like the start of the year, I think it's, It's like March 4th or something, is when we can start re-signing our own free agents. And we've got a list of free agents. So our next show, which should be coming out here in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about, Ren, and you might get excited for this, is we're going to be talking about our free agents. Who do we need to sign? Who can we let walk? Who's going to be available for the right price, or who should be available? Who should we bring back if they're available for the right price? So we'll definitely be talking about our free agents, and then we'll start looking at other free agents out there. We've got to take a look at that, and we've got to analyze and see what holes do we have on the team. And then once we get through all of that, somewhere through March, then we'll certainly start talking about the draft, because I can't wait for the draft to come up. The draft is, to me, for the PewterCast, just so you guys know, the draft is our 1-year anniversary. This show started right after yeah, I know, coming up on it. This show started right after the draft last year, so that'll be our 1-year anniversary show, which should be super, super duper fun. But that's going to be really what the offseason looks like. We've got a show coming out every couple of weeks. We'll be getting in and putting them out there. So lots and lots of fun stuff coming in. Congratulations again to everybody who won an award. We'll be getting some stuff out to you guys here in the mail in the not too far future. And really, I can't wait to be able to get these in the hands of the players. I hope it just kind of makes them smile and goes, hey, that's kind of cool. I don't really know exactly what all that's going to do for that. And Ren, Daxt from Real Bucs Talk, man, thank you once again so much for being a part of the PewterCast here. Man, love really getting to have you on here. Why don't you tell everybody one more time where they can find you and your all's website and more of what you guys are doing out there on the internet?
Well, you pretty much locked it down, what you were talking about. That's exactly what we've been putting out right now. What free agents the Bucs are looking at. Which ones should they pass on? Which ones should they keep? We are not a huge mock draft, but we do evaluate lots of players. Not telling you the Bucs should take that person or take that person or what round they go in, but the information is there for you to kind of, so you go, when you hear the person's name, okay, well, this is what I know about them. And then you can kind of decide where you think they slot into. Now, if you ever want to have a conversation with us on Twitter about it, we'll talk Bucs football with you all day long. Find us on Twitter. Find me at Rendaxt, REN_DAXT. Find us at Real Bucs Talk. That's all, it's Twitter, so it's all one word, Real Bucs Talk. And then it's realbucstalk.blogspot.com. We just had our 1-year anniversary about a month ago, and as you know, it's 365 days in a year, and we have over 500 posts. So, we're on it 2-3 times a week. There's a lot of new material up there for you to look at, and there's the archive you can pick up. And if I may plug one more thing for us, I will, for those 3 people that want to know what I look like, I will be on at Super Heavyweight. I'll tweet out the link later. Tomorrow, and we'll be discussing exactly what you just went over. Free agents for the Bucs. I'll be on their YouTube tomorrow with Gene Thomas. And thanks again for having me on. I will talk Bucs football till I'm blue in the face. And I always like talking with you because even if we agree on something, we always have a little piece different way to look at it, a little something to add. And it always makes sense. So, love being here. Anytime you need me, anytime you want me. Is that a song? Is that a Mariah Carey song?
No, but I'm pretty sure that's a Rick Astley song.
Rick rolled you. Anyway, yeah, it was a great time, and I was really honored that you asked me to do this with you. And congratulations on coming up for first year. You've done a great job with your live, your after every game live broadcast. You do a call-in show, and like I said, the production quality of your podcast is better than anyone's hands down.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The Instant Cast, man, that was not a show I saw coming. That one certainly had a kind of took on a life of its own, so to speak. But man, it was just a lot of fun. So, and Ren, thanks again so much for you being out here, coming into the show. It's made a huge difference. This would have been a much more boring award show if it was just me droning on for 2 hours. So, once again, thanks so much for being out here. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up this show. Thank you guys for being here. Hey, listen, if you've agreed or disagreed with any of these awards, please let me know. I'd love to know who you would have picked or maybe who you did pick. You can tweet me at the PewterCast, or you can find me on Facebook.com/the PewterCast, or send me an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com. I do respond to all forms of communication, and I got to tell you, this offseason, it's been a little lonely. So hit me guys up. Well, guys, listen, we'll be back in just a couple weeks with another episode of the PewterCast, heading towards the 2017 season. And until then, guys, go Bucs.